Thank you very much, everybody. I'll see you.
Iranian sleeper cells in the United States.
Biden led a lot of super cells, and Biden was an incompetent president, had no idea what he was doing. He hardly ever signed a document. Other people signed documents for him with the auto pen. It was gross incompetence. And among everything else, he let a lot of super cells in, many from Iran. But hopefully we'll take care of them. What Biden did to this country should never be forgotten.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you all for joining me today. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel, and most importantly, please make sure that you are following me on Telegram at TD Media Group to help circumvent social media censorship and shadow banning. And with the introduction out of the way, let's get into today's news. And today, I want to come back to this subject and this topic here, right? Recently, more Iranians with criminal histories were arrested by ICE in Trump's security sweep. Worst of the worst. Initially, when this story of the sweeps of Iranian nationals being arrested who have criminal records here, originally when this story came out, I believe at the top of this week, we'll just say Monday or whatnot, it was roughly around 11 who are picked up. That number has since been bumped up to about 17, right? 17 Iranian nationals, with criminal histories that were roaming around the country have been picked up and taken away, which is a good thing. And I want to take a moment to address this because, once again, this is very important to me to speak on this, not to be an alarmist, but to just give information, just in light of everything that's going on, in the Middle East, particularly as it pertains to Israel, Iran, and obviously the United States, right? We have sleeper cells for sure walking around and roaming this country, especially coming off of the Biden crisis, which is more officially known as the migrant crisis. When you're taking into account the fact that during the Biden crisis, I want to say roughly around 600 individuals who are on a terrorist watch list were intercepted. But when you take into account that there were 2 million gotaways that came into the country and we don't know where they are, who knows the number of terrorists and those on a terrorist watch list that are roaming around the country that we just don't know of, right? Once again, I don't say these things to be an alarmist, but I just say it just to inform. Just to inform, once again, given the fact that there's just so much going on in the world, particularly surrounding the Middle East, and when you're talking about Iran, Israel, Palestine, and so on and so forth, right? We don't really know who's here, and that's what I want to get into. So I'm not going to read this article here. But what I want to do is that I want to play this video for you first. So let's get into this right now. I'm going to take this article down and pull this video up. This is a CBS Morning News video where they touched on this topic briefly. So let's get into this right now.
The Department of Homeland Security says Yusuf Meridano had been living in the United States illegally for nearly 8 years since U.S. officials determined he lied on a visa application on Sunday, just 4 months after the Iranian foreign national was added to the U.S.'s known or suspected terrorist list. He was arrested in central Mississippi. He's now in ICE custody pending removal proceedings, and he's not alone. Over the past 48 hours, ICE officials have arrested 11 Iranian nationals spanning 8 states nationwide. Among them, 5 possessed previous criminal convictions, their crimes ranging from grand larceny to drug and firearm possessions. Also among those apprehended, Ribvar Karimi. While arresting him in northern Alabama, ICE officials say they found his Islamic Republic of Iran Army identification card and allege he served as an Iranian sniper between 2018 and 2021.
So we have snipers in our midst, right? We have snipers in our midst. And also, too, I want to make sure to highlight as well. I remember at the, you could say height of the migrant crisis, when I would do a lot of live streams about it and discussing this topic, oftentimes the conversation largely revolved around, blue cities like Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, Denver, so on and so forth, DC, so on and so forth, right? But I remember articulating to you guys that just because the focus of these videos are on blue cities doesn't mean that they're not in places like, Alabama and Mississippi and so on and so forth. Doesn't mean that they're not in red states or red cities. That's not what that means. It's just the focal point is in the blue cities because that's, you know, the mecca, right, of illegal immigration when you're talking about sanctuary cities. But as you can see here, this guy was found in Alabama. I believe the other gentleman that they discussed earlier, if I heard correctly, I kind of slipped my mind, but I think they said something to the degree of maybe Mississippi or something like that, you know. But the point is, it wasn't Chicago, right, and it wasn't New York City. So it just goes to show that, you know, people should keep their head on a swivel. You should keep your head on a swivel. And just because you're not in a blue city or blue state doesn't mean that you're absolved from the issues of illegal immigration. That's not what that means, right? What I want to do next is this. Let me pull this up on the screen for you guys right now. So look at this here. I want to read through this very briefly. ICE arrests 11 Iranian nationals illegally in the U.S. over the weekend. This is from DHS.gov. Let me go through this very fast for you guys. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement arrested 11 Iranian nationals illegally in the United States over the weekend. ICE also arrested a U.S. citizen who threatened to kill ICE law enforcement while harboring an illegal alien from Iran. The weekend arrests reflect the Department of Homeland Security's commitment to keeping known and suspected terrorists out of American communities. Under Secretary Noem, DHS has been full throttle on identifying and arresting known and suspected terrorists and violent extremists that illegally entered the country, came in through Biden's fraudulent parole programs or otherwise, said DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin. And I quote in closing, we have been saying we are getting the worst of the worst out, and we are. We don't wait until a military operation to execute. We proactively deliver on President Trump's mandate to secure the homeland. So this is the individual here who is an Iranian sniper that was just discussed earlier, right, in the previous video that I just played. So we had him walking around here. Fortunately, he's been picked up. But and this is just the visuals and the names of all the other individuals, right? But I don't want to go through everybody. I want to put the focus here. I'm definitely going to butcher these names, so it is what it is. But I want to put the focus here, right, on these two, because these two were discussed in a previous video, but I just want to elaborate on them a little bit more. On June 22nd, in Tempe, a Phoenix, Arizona suburb, ICE agents arrested, bear with me, Mizard Asadi Adivand, an Iranian citizen with a final order of removal, charged with being an alien in possession of a firearm. Adivand entered the U.S. in San Ysidro, California in June of 2012. In August of 2013, an immigration judge granted him voluntary departure, which allows an alien to leave the country without a formal ICE removal. But he never left, of course, right? Adivand will remain in ICE custody pending removal proceedings. Let's stop there, but we're going to keep the focus on it. But let's pause for a moment. This is why I'm so glad now when these court hearings are being had concerning people's pending asylum case and so on and so forth. Now, ICE is removing them immediately. They're at the courthouse, and the moment that it's found that their asylum claim or just any other claim that they have to want to be in the country has been denied, ICE is there immediately to remove them. I've never understood this voluntary self-deportation that they've implemented. If I commit a crime and I go to court and I get found guilty and I'm sentenced to jail, they don't then just let me go home and I'll show up to the jail, you know, whenever I feel like it. They say, okay, you've been sentenced 10 years in prison. Now go on home and make sure you come back. Why would I come back? That doesn't make any sense. That's insanity. I wouldn't come back. I'm not trying to go to prison. I wouldn't come back. So like I've never understood that either when it comes to just illegal immigration and immigration courts and whatnot. You know, they'll rule that, okay, you have a removal order on you. Your claim has been denied. Your asylum claim has been denied. Now go home to wherever you live now in the U.S. and make sure to self-deport. Of course, they're not going to self-deport. You know, so once again, I'm glad that they've, for the most part, somewhat made that change, right? But here's what I really want to focus on, right? So speaking about this guy still, We're still on Mr. Eddie Vand, right? Look at this. At the same residence, officials arrested Lynette V. We'll just call her Lynette V. I can't pronounce that extra long last name. Let me zoom in just a little bit more for you guys, just in case you're not watching. That last name is out of control. So, anyways, at the same residence, officials arrested Lynette V. We'll call her a United States citizen for threatening a law enforcement officer. She threatened to open fire on ICE officials if they entered her home, then said she would go outside and, I quote, shoot ICE officers in the head. ICE officials obtained a search warrant for the residence and arrested the pair, who are now charged with federal crimes. This is the type of insanity and the type of lunatics that we have in the country. This is the type of people that we have running around here. And these are the type of lunatics that we have protecting them, right? I just wanted to make sure to highlight that to you. But even worse than these type of lunatics, like this woman here, who's threatening to take the life of an ICE agent, in my opinion, man, there's nothing worse than the lunatics of the DNC. Because they're always looking to justify foolishness. Now, in light of Trump's successful strikes on Iran, CNN has been trying to downplay those successful strikes, as well as other people, that exist outside of mainstream media, just on YouTube in general, during live streams and whatnot, always looking for a reason to downplay the president's accomplishment or anything and everything that he does. And I want to show you guys and play this clip for you guys. This is just an example of the lunacy that we're dealing with in this country, especially through mainstream media. How this is even allowed on air is beyond me. But let's take a look at this here. I want to play this CNN clip, and I'm not going to preface it with anything. I just want you to look, all right, and listen. Most importantly, I just want you to listen to what's being said here, and then we'll unpack it afterwards. So let's get into this clip next in closing.
But the question is whether or not the calm can remain when the regime that is still there, who wants death to America, death to Israel, stays in place. And that is part of the discussion, right?
Yes, absolutely part of the discussion. And, I remember, Dan, at one point being in Tehran years ago, and they're chanting death to America all around me, even as I say, oh, I'm an American reporting for CNN, and they were happy to speak to me. So that those two is sort of jarring realities of the chant, and yet the friendliness have existed together.
You know what you just heard? In an effort to try to make Trump look bad, they're obviously establishing the fact that Iran essentially is ran by a terrorist regime. That's just irrefutable at this point. In the midst of this, in order to make Trump look bad, we can't just acknowledge the fact that this is a terrorist regime, in which the people that run the country and its supporters are constantly yelling out death to Israel and death to the United States. But you have them here trying to humanize all of it by saying, well, when I was in Iran, yes, I was surrounded by chants of death to the United States, but there was a certain humanity to it because some of them were very happy to see me. Why are you trying to humanize terrorism? That's crazy. Is it me? Am I reaching here right now? It sounds like you're trying to put a human face on terrorism. You try to humanize it, you try to soften it. Like, yes, of course, they shout death to America, But I mean, when I was there were a lot of people that were happy to see me. What are we even talking about here, man? These are the same people that were false flagging about Donald Trump and the whole both sides comment that he did not make. Because if you watch that video in its entirety, when he was talking about whatever happened in, that rally where that young woman got ran over, unfortunately. What was it? I forgot where. what city that was in, you know, but you guys know what I'm talking about already. If you watch the full clip, Trump clearly stated, you know, there were good people on both sides. And I'm not talking about the white supremacists. Like, he clearly said that. He clearly said that. But that part was edited out and they just ran with the both sides lie. But you have here, as they're talking about Iran and trying to downplay the actions of Trump and trying to make it seem like he's not all the way right for doing what he did, they're both citing Iran. Excuse me. CNN is both citing terrorism. Okay? There's good people on both sides of the spectrum over there. They're both citing terrorism because, God forbid, you just say, good job, Trump. Good job. Job well done. Was a little nervous about what you did. Wasn't really too thrilled about the strikes, but they were successful. According to your intelligence, the nuclear plants have been destroyed and nothing else resulted after the fact. Iran didn't declare war on us. We didn't declare war on them, right? And Iran has actually come back to the table for negotiations. So good job. As opposed to just saying good job, you all just choose to be stupid. And it's truly a sight to see. It's truly a sight to see. And with all that being said, that does it for today's news. So I want to thank you guys for joining me today. Please hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Share this video on your social media platforms. And also do not forget to follow me on Telegram at TD Media Group. The link to my Telegram is in the description box below and pinned in the comment section as well. Thank you all for your time. Until the next video, peace and have a great afternoon.